us to have a conversation.
How do you know he hasn't responded?
Has he?
Yeah, he is.
Did you speak to him? Did you speak to him before you made the announcement yesterday?
That's very positive. Well, just so you understand with South Korea, look, South Korea has been protected by us for many, many years. And during my first term, they agreed to pay close to $3 billion a year for protection because we don't, they essentially weren't paying. And I asked them to do that at my request. I said, not right. They weren't happy about it, but they agreed. I asked for $10 billion, and they were very unhappy. But we agreed for a short term that it would be $3 billion, and next year it would go up, and the next year it would go up. So they start paying for their protection. When the election was rigged, and I ended up watching for 4 years and then coming back, I watched Biden rescind that $3 billion a year for whatever reason. When I called recently, President of South Korea, who I like, I think he's very nice actually, but I called him, I said, would you like to give us a little hand? We don't need help with your next door neighbor. Help us on a very easy military operation, right? It's strange. No, we'd rather not get involved. I say, well, why are we involved in helping you? So, and I want to help them, but when you ask somebody, would you like to give us a hand? And they say, no thanks. And then we're guarding them from a country and paying ourselves billions of, it's costing us billions and billions of dollars to protect not only them, but other countries. Look at NATO. We spend hundreds of billions of dollars protecting Europe from Russia. Hundreds of billions, mostly from Russia, but from other things too. And then they say, well, they don't want to get involved with guarding the strait where they get most of their oil. They get 50% of their oil, and they don't want to get involved. Why are we doing it? So all I want is fairness. And South Korea, I get along with them very well, but they were paying $3 billion a year, and then they convinced Biden that I was probably a bad person, and they shouldn't. And he immediately rescinded that order. So we were getting paid. We would have been getting paid a lot more, but we can't go around and protect all of these countries, especially when they're not there to help us.
All right. All right, Shalom. First of all, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Bahashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Salutations to all the brothers and the few sisters out there. Unto us like foreigners from the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Shalom in the Hebrew, which means peace. Now, after hearing Nero give his excuse, and which we all know through the Spirit of the Lord what's going on, but it's clear as day, is publicly known that nobody wants to get involved with America in this war. Nobody wants to get involved with it. And what I mean by that, I'm talking about America's own allies. Those that America's been feeding, those that America's been protecting for all those years. Look what the protection gets those Middle Eastern countries that have the base. You had U.S. bases for decades over there. Not only are they utterly obliterated, the U.S. is not even intended to protect them from anything. So what's happening now, everybody's trying to see, like, yo, getting embedded with these people is not a smart idea. It's not very wise. Because as soon as it doesn't go in America's way, they no longer there. They no longer able to assist them because it's not in the vested interest of America. All this shows, this is the prophecies speaking. All right. That's all this is showing right here. That nobody wants to do nothing, no deal. We're not gonna fight with for you. in this war, which eventually all the nations are going to end up fighting because the Lord's going to put that spirit on them to fight, to go into the Middle East. All right. But nobody wants to be near this guy. Nobody wants to be with this country in this foolish war. All right. Real quick, couple scriptures. Obadiah 1:7, I believe. Yep. It says, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. Now, when you look up the word confederacy, is bariat, covenant, alliance, pledge between men, treaty, alliance, league, men to constitution, ordinance, monarchy to subjects. Despite how they try to act like it's an equal footing with North Korea and all these nations, is not. America's the overlord, and they'll utilize these other nations as much as they want. But the smart plan or the smart idea was not to give these other nations tip top military advantage. So since they don't have the military advantage like America has, they're not willing to fight. But that's not going to stop them from receiving goods from them. It says I said, all the men of that confederacy or a covenant alliance have brought thee even to the border. Now the main ones that's bringing has brought America to the border. See, he could sit there and try to say, "Oh, but we've been looking out for you guys, but you can't do that." Who told you to put or attack that country? All right, in that region, it wasn't them. All right, like I always state to the fact, because you have to utilize your brain, and that 9/11 was a galvanizing situation for everybody. And I remember clearly as it was yesterday, and I don't have a good memory, but Bush gave he gave all the nations that was he gave up the names of all the nations that was so-called in the U.S. Backing, meaning that supported the U.S. because of the 9/11 attack. And there was a lot of nations that truly wasn't. They didn't have a standing army. It's just a show. This is it was a dog and pony show but that was a time where you can't talk ill towards against America because of the fact it just got attacked. And no matter how the situation is, anybody speaks ill about it, you would feel the wrath of America. So the U.S. troops, the U.S., everything like that, was galvanized to one main thing. This 9/11 was the Pearl Harbor of millennium. All right, that was a reason for everybody to get together and say we have a common enemy, a common threat. Let's go out there and destroy them. This has none of that. So the ones that got America to that border, which is that land of Israel, has set America and the American people up. All right. It says, even to the border, the men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee. And Israel has deceived America. All right. The politicians to the average person. Might I add, the Rebbe's or whatever you want to call them stated that America's Edom. America is Rome. But yet they need the financial backing that this Edom slash Rome is doing. Right. It says, and prevail against thee, they that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. So laying giving them bread, meaning a welfare state. Now he make mention of NATO and how NATO, as much money they've been putting into NATO, NATO has not reciprocated or gave back. All right, it's because of the simple fact is it's been a one-sided relationship. If you're the big bad, it means you have everything. You took everything that you wanted. You don't need their armies. All right. I forgot the term when they have. There's a term that is. I'm gonna look it up. I don't want to look it up right now. But when a stronger military put another military in captives or whatever, captivity or whatever, and they'll use that military as mercenaries in order to, they don't have to kill. They won't lose their people. All right, and that's where it all stems from. Let me get this real quick because I'm here. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, Psalms 41 and 9. It says, "Yeah, my own familiar friend, in whom I trusted, which did eat of my bread, have lifted up his heel against me." This is David speaking. All right. So when you have allies or alliance, the military is not supposed to touch you. So he said, and the number doesn't even add up. 39,000 U.S. troops in border of South Korea compared to millions of people. And what's the only thing that's holding North Korea back is that America had a little, they had their back and they had a military presence, and that would cause trouble. But if they pull back and they see the opportunity that is granted to them, they will attack. Matter of fact, I don't even think they will be attacked. I think they'll come as one because this everybody's been eating off of America has they haven't benefited much. All right, they have not benefited much. Everybody's eating off of America has not benefited that much. So now you want to pull your allies into endless war, unnecessary war. That's why the scripture says, Sirach 8 and 1. It says, "Strive not with a mighty man, lest thou shalt fall into his hands." So the wise thing to do, any military would think this thing through. You don't want to get yourself involved. This is one of those situations where, you know what, I'm good, and that's what all these nations have done. They have been saying it publicly. They have said it behind his back. We're good. We're not going to get involved. Why? Because they're using wisdom. Trump and this administration, under the guidance of that welfare state, has went full throttle. All right, and not realizing that these are not smart military procedures that they're conducting. All right, might I add that the educational level of everybody else in the world is they're more critical thinking. They don't respond just on. They don't respond just on emotions. And Trump is a very emotional person. All right, they're basically saying this whole situation was a bad idea from the get go. That's what they've been saying, but he doesn't see it. He's blinded by finances. He's blinded because the overseers, has really gotten them in a trap that they can't get themselves out of. My favorite scripture, Jeremiah 50:24, it says, "I have laid a snare for thee." Who have laid that snare? The Most High, Yahweh. What is a snare? A snare is a trap, bird trap. Well, let's use it in modern day term, a bear trap. All right, it's trapping in general. Okay, because if I said snare trap, most people don't even understand what is kind of trap. In the ancient world, they had traps for birds, but today, what do you trap? You have the bear trap. A bear steps on a trap, and the spring busts its limb. Okay, well, the Lord has set up traps for America. It says, "Oh Babylon, that was not aware." So they wasn't aware of the trapping. He has been Trump has been given bad intel because of the simple fact everybody that he has in his inner circle are nothing but yes men. Okay, when you have nothing but yes men and everybody has their own agenda instead of the agenda of the collective of what they're doing, then you have issues. So everybody has their own agenda. But he surrounded himself with these people. All right. Even his son-in-law, what's the name, Kushner, they didn't have his back, but yet he still have him again. See, he's not he's not invested into America, Babylon the Great. He's invested into what Israel tells him to do, and it's clear as day. Everybody sees it. The emergence of the military intelligence, military period, the overtaking, the gift given. All right, it's just become it's astronomical. All right, it says that was not aware that are found and also caught because that has strive against the Lord. So since he created a space force, he's proud as hell. He said he put all his stocks into the military. He built today's modern day military, but yet they getting their ass beat so badly, so bad, so bad. You know that he doesn't. He fails to see his own demise. But that's the pride talk. That's the pride look. But nobody wants to deal with this place. Nobody wants to like. Nah, we're good. They was like, oh, we'll take you out of this. They're like, don't worry about it. We're good. They could see the trapping right in front of their eyes. All right, they study war. And the best, it's sad to say, the best country, the study of war, is the war that is this country that's actually causing all the wars in the world. They have certain patterns, like I was talking to a bro. They have decades, which we all know. They have decades of film on them. It is like we about to enter football season, right? And in football season, where right now we are in preseason. So preseason is where the National Football League. I'm gonna break it down like that. The National Football League practices, but it's not just a particular team that practice. They evaluate every player that's in the National Football League. So throughout these next few weeks, teams are going to be scoping certain players in certain other teams if those guys in their team doesn't fit the team's the team's need. All right. If you have a hole in which no team has a hole, but is a term saying they have a hole, meaning the people that's in that particular position can't fulfill it because they're not talented enough. So what they'll do, they will look at other teams and they'll try to scoop because they have what they call film on specific thing. But also every team have a film on each other. So when the season starts, whatever they practice, whatever film they got, even though preseason There's no real plays or anything like that. It's just studies of the players and if they could follow certain things. But the best way a team can overcome anything is if they have film on another team. So all the other nations have been getting films on America and their strategy and how they conduct their business, how they conduct wars. All right. See, openly they make us citizens biased by having us believe that they're untouchable. They are nobody really wants it with that, and they fail to realize a lot of these wars that America finds themselves into, they have lost. So if they lost these wars and everybody has film on it, they study their patterns. You can't get them in surprise. All right, the enemy knows who you are, and sometimes the enemy just have you in mind and study every single thing that you do and have an answer to every step that you got. So the Lord did it deliberately, gave everybody decades of how you conduct war, how you do things, and what their conclusion is, or we could take them. They sense weakness. Luke 17. Sorry for the long rendition, but that's reality. All right, that's how things are conducted. That's why when you have a strategy, even in boxing, everybody knows a person's strategy. So what do they because everybody sees film. When two boxers about to go at it, they train the boxers to fight that particular fighter. So if that fighter is a good striker, you got to be able to duck and dodge, right? To counter everything. So if like prime example, Rocky 3, one of the best Rockies, Clubber Lane was just he was a he was a brute. He was just a fucking brute. And Mickey, the guy who's training Rocky, now you can't handle him. So after he got his ass beat, the next trainer they had to adapt to the style of Clubber Lane. All right. So Rocky, I analyze it. Let me get that. I'm sorry. So Rocky, he himself analyzed and saw this man's style. So when he saw his style, he realized like, okay, all I gotta do is exhaust him, right? Just like Muhammad Ali, the rope a dope. He fooled what's this guy's name? George, was it George Foreman? Yeah, I believe so. He fooled him. He knew how he got that. He was a heavy hitter. Once he exhausted himself, what did he do? Then he proceeds when he saw that he was weak, that he went and attacked him. Um, Luke 14 and 9, 31, sorry. Or what king going to make a war against another king sitteth not down first and consulteth whether he be able with 10,000 to meet him that cometh against him with 20,000. So there's a lot of procedure got to go before you go into a war. All right. There's a lot of planning. There's a lot of plot. People need film on one another. What weapons do this person? That's why you have intel. So he's trying to shame South Korea, but it shows you how desperate America is. That's all that proves. How you really need everybody else to aid you with this. You're desperate. You're weak. But they sense weakness. All right. Don't get it twisted. These nations sense weakness. It says Joel 3:9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. So they're the men, the mighty men are coming up. All right. They're being stirred up, but not for what America and their allies may think, which America is running out of allies. It says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. So they have taken all their money that goes to the people, agriculture, welfare, so forth, to feed their people, and said, or even doing own construction. Nope, let's put it all into this war. They didn't have money for their care, but they sure have enough money to get into that war. All right. But the nations let the weak say, I am strong. North Korea, they were weak at one period of time, and he called under his jurisdiction, he called Kim Jong Un Rocket Man as a like a diss. But now he came in, he got to talk to Rocket Man as an equal, so they know exactly how to strategize. That's why at that time, all those years, I Iran didn't have that nuke. If they had nukes, we would be talking in a whole nother different ball game. Because they want America's whole thing is to go after the weak, and the weak doesn't have those ICBM nuclear capabilities. Those that have that, they they don't want no parts of it. So the nations that seemingly be weak are no longer weak. They have the nukes. That's why they could tell Nero to his face, "We're good. No, thank you." You know, it doesn't benefit them. So America's losing their allies daily, which is spiritual. Because when that time to come, they will nuke them. So with that being said, shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. Shalom.